What if Anakin Skywalker was a Jedi pirate? Let's start the story when Anakin is 14 years old. In the 2016 Obi-Wan Kenobi comics, Anakin admits to Obi-Wan that he wishes to leave the Jedi Order. He doesn't feel at home here and believes his path in the Force lies elsewhere. After a pivotal mission, Anakin decides to remain in the Order as a Jedi. However, in this story, we're going to have Anakin stick to his original beliefs and leave the Jedi Order and Obi-Wan behind. The Jedi provide Anakin with a ship, and he decides to fly back to Tatooine to be with his mother. He hasn't seen her in almost 5 years, but he's thought about her every day. He lands his ship next to the Lars moisture farm, and waiting for him outside was his mother. He ran to her and embraced her tightly. They were both happy to see each other, and Anakin was even happier to find out she was no longer a slave. They spent the evening together, catching up whilst Anakin told her why he left the Jedi Order, that he didn't feel at home, and the Order wasn't exactly what he expected. He's happy Shmi is free, and is grateful to Klieg and the Lars for what they've done for her. Anakin decides to work on the farm and help out for a bit. He integrates into the family, and his help on the farm is greatly appreciated. He would use the Force sometimes to help in his work, which amazed the Lars and Shmi that Anakin really did have the powers of the Jedi. He spends months with them, and Anakin was happy here, not a worry in the world, and loved being around his mother. However, one day, as Anakin's working in the farm, a local pirate named Vesser Kor came to the Lars home. Vesser sought out Anakin personally, telling him he has a job available, but needs one more crew member, and would like Skywalker to join them. The perfect job for a Jedi. Anakin knows Vesser. He was a pirate, and told him he wasn't a Jedi, and denied his offer. Vesser told Anakin he doesn't care what he calls himself, but will pay him 8,000 credits for his work. Anakin paused. This was as much money as the Lars have made from their farm in 6 months, and this could change his family's life. He tells Vesser he'll think about it, and the pirate says to make up his mind soon as they leave that night. Anakin discusses with Shmi and Klieg, who are thankful that Anakin would take the job for them, but advises Anakin to go against it. Vesser is a criminal and not to be trusted. Anakin agrees, but he can't sleep that night. He can't get the fact out of his mind that this one job could take the Lars family out of poverty, and feels that he owes them for what they've done for his mother. Anakin decides to go and links up with Vesser and his crew. Vesser led Anakin onto their ship as Skywalker made eye contact with some of the members. There were aliens of every species, a Zabrak, a Rodian, Gamorrean, Ithorian, and a couple humans. But what caught his eye the most was that there was someone his age here, a Twi'lek girl, but she quickly broke his gaze as they made eye contact. Vesser explained to the crew that Anakin was joining them for a mission and to make him feel welcome. The captain smiled, and Anakin took a seat by himself at the back of the ship. Vesser explained the mission as they exited hyperspace around Ratatic. He tells his crew that he's caught word that a Republic transport has crashed near the equatorial plane, and on board is their prize, sealed status crates of Bacta and Kyber infused med gel. But the wreck has been claimed by a Hutt broker named Garth Vug, who plans to auction the crates to local warlords inside the Gladiator City. Their goal is to infiltrate the auction and walk out with the crates before Garth sells it. It's simple. They land their ship on the outskirts of the planet and make their way to the city. Vesser leads them in, as he has word that the auction is taking place in a repurposed hangar beneath the main area. Half of the crew break off and blend in with the crowd to help if any trouble breaks out. The other 6 walk up to the gate, where they're stopped by a Gamorrean guard. He demands to see Vesser's papers, that only verified bidders can have a look at the crates. Vesser chuckles, asking the guard if he knows who he is, but the guard doesn't care and demands to see his verification. Vesser pulls out a small sheet from his chest pocket and shoves it in the Gamorrean's face, as Anakin reaches out with the Force to mess with the Gamorrean's mind, making him believe Vesser's name as a verified buyer using a Force mind trick. The Gamorrean tells them they can enter, but only one extra person with Vesser. He looks at Anakin, telling him to come in, whilst the others wait outside. They walk into the warehouse of bidders and wait another 10 minutes until the bidding starts. Vesser bids ferociously, knowing that he won't actually have to pay the amount that he bids for. He wins the bid, 150,000 credits, as Garth tells everyone else that it's time to leave, as Vesser has won the auction. Vesser and Anakin approach the crates to take a closer look. The merchandise was there, as Garth was asking the pirate how he was going to pay, but Anakin got in Garth's face and waved his hand, telling him that they will not be paying for any of this, that he wants to give it to them as a nice gesture. Garth repeats Anakin's words, and Vessel knows the Force mind trick has worked. He whistles as the other 4 in his crew enter, and they begin loading their crates into the repulsor cart before anyone questions it. 5 minutes pass as they start taking the cart away through the streets. Vessel winks at Anakin, believing it's all gone well, until Garth rushes out of the warehouse and yells for anyone to stop those carts for a reward. Vessel panics, realizing the mind trick has worn off. He calls for the driver to go faster, as those in the street begin racing after them. The other 6 members in the crowd reveal themselves to stop their pursuers, allowing for Vessel and the rest to make their escape. They reach the ship and leave the planet without any more trouble. The crew celebrate as they leave the atmosphere. This was a 6 score, and Vessel had Anakin on his shoulders, and they were all dancing and drinking, except Anakin of course. Anakin surprisingly had fun. He was appreciated here, and the thrill of the steal was something he could get used to. They returned to Coruscant the next morning, and Vessel walked Anakin off the ship. He put his arm around Skywalker and told him they couldn't have done it without him, and handed him the package with 10,000 credits, 2,000 more than promised. And Vessel told him they could make a more permanent arrangement. Anakin could become a member of his crew. To think of all the money they could make, think about how he could change the lives of his family. And Anakin already knew the answer, and he agrees, becoming part of Vessel's pirate crew. Anakin returns to his home shortly after to show his family the money. Shmi wanted to scold Anakin for helping the pirate, but she and Klieg couldn't lie. The 10,000 credits could change their lives. Now that Anakin was part of the crew, he went on many more jobs. They would raid ships and trade routes, steal and sell to the black market, smuggle and hold ransom. Anakin was bringing in a lot of money this way, and he was able to change the Lars' lives. They no longer had to farm in the harsh suns, and instead moved into a large spacious air-conditioned home with underground dwellings, landscaped courtyards, and even a small pool. They had areas of greenery, servants not slaves, and now could enjoy life to the fullest. They would go on holidays to other planets, go to expensive cantinas and shows, all thanks to Anakin. However, they would use some of their money for good. A portion goes to freeing slaves on Tatooine and setting them up with proper accommodation and jobs, which helps Anakin to justify the work that he does. Anakin is tight with the pirate crew. He and his Force powers are essential to their missions, and they all see Anakin as a little brother. His power in the Force increases during this time. He had the basic training in the Jedi Temple, but he continues his personal study, and they have stolen many Jedi into the artifacts for him to train with. They even stole a white lightsaber from a rich collector, which Anakin only uses when he gets into real danger. The one crew member he's closest with is Lena, the Twi'lek of a similar age. When he first joined the crew, she was cold to Anakin, but over time she began to open up. They both had a similar upbringing, as she was also a slave, until their pirate crew freed her, and she joined them. Together they worked well in missions, protecting each other, and could fight well together. Anakin confessed his feelings one day, and they fell in love. Anakin was part of the crew for 2 more years until he was 16. He had built a strong wealth, and it was looking good for him, until one day on their mission, Vessel was caught by a stray bullet. Anakin carried him back to their ship, and they managed to escape. But they lost Vessel in the process, and he did not survive his injuries. This hit Anakin hard. Vessel treated Anakin like a son, and he saw Vessel as the father he never had. They held a funeral for their leader, and shortly after, the crew would vote on who would take his place. They debated, but ultimately they came to a unanimous agreement. The one who would lead them has shown his value time and time again, turning the tide of many missions and looking out for each and every member of their crew. And that was none other than Anakin Skywalker. Anakin accepted the promotion and decided to make some changes. They started taking on more ambitious and risky heists with greater potential for treasure, but of course higher risk of danger. However, Anakin was able to predict what operations would likely be a success by meditating in the Force beforehand, and only pick those they would be victorious in. Through this, the pirates gained far greater wealth, and they used this to extend their forces. They hire more crew, buy more ships to increase their pirating capacity. After 2 more years of pirating, Anakin now has 10 ships under his command, and he was the captain of them all. Sometimes they all go on the same missions, but on smaller ones, only a few go. but Anakin has handpicked his entire crew to ensure they're all capable and have some sort of moral compass. On some missions, Anakin has them target a special interest of his. They focus on stealing Force-related objects, holocrons, scrolls, artifacts to add to his collection, but to also study and learn from. He continued his training in the Force and learns from both the dark and light sides, taking aspects of both for power. He isn't a dark Jedi, but he draws on his negative emotions for power and rationalizes that power isn't evil if it's used to protect and provide for his own. He trains in the Force without restraint and uses it to enhance his piloting, aim, and most importantly, intuition. After all these years, Anakin has built the largest pirating force in the Outer Rim, known as the Ghost Sons. Anakin's ambition is to grow his pirating empire even further, to hire more ships and crew. He moves his family to Ryloth, where he buys them a large estate, and they continue to live a lavish life, while he sets up the base of the Ghost Sons across Ryloth's 5 moons. They continue pirating for one more year, until events around the galaxy change how he needed to operate as the Clone War begins. This changes things. Shipping lanes are blocked by Separatist and Republic ships. Wealthy people have a greater security capacity and ultimately more Jedi around the galaxy. He decides that his pirates can capitalize from this, and they simply need to change their target of merchandise. Instead, they focus on war-related products to steal and sell to the Republic and Separatists. They run supply routes through war-torn systems, selling medical supplies, weapons, and food for profit. During one mission, they're running a supply line to Felucia. They were selling crates of medical supplies that the Republic had bought from them, as they were unable to get a batch to the Felucians before the next battle. Anakin led the drop-off personally, as he used the Force to carry the crates from his main cargo ship onto the hangar bay. However, whilst he was doing this, he was visited by the Jedi currently stationed on the planet, Jedi Master Obi-Wan Kenobi and his apprentice Ahsoka Tano. Anakin turned to see his former master and greeted him with positive affirmations, but Kenobi stood firm, his brow furrowed and arms crossed. He told Anakin that he didn't believe the rumors could be true, but he was wrong. Anakin really was a pirate. This annoyed Anakin, who was Obi-Wan to judge him, and tells his former master that he's making an honest living. But Kenobi scoffs, telling Anakin there is nothing honest about him. This is poverty to what he could have become. He was meant to bring balance to the Force, not balance the Book of Thieves, and he senses the dark side within him. Anakin turns and continues unloading the ship, not wanting to hear any more from Obi-Wan, and Anakin leaves, his last words stating that Qui-Gon would be disappointed in him, as Anakin shouts back that maybe if Obi-Wan had protected him like he was meant to, he would still be alive. But someone else that was aware of Anakin was Palpatine. He'd heard whispers of his experience, the pirate with Jedi powers, disrupting supply lines, and knows he needs to investigate for himself. He commands Dooku to send Ventress against Anakin to take out the leader of the Ghost Sons. Ventress infiltrated their base on Ryloth's moons in the dead of night. Anakin and Lena were sleeping, and she did her best to hide her presence in the Force, but Anakin's acuity to changes in the Force was too strong. Ventress entered their bedroom and jumped, igniting her blade, ready to take Anakin out. But Skywalker woke up with the Fury, pulling his lightsaber with the Force and blocked Ventress's attack. He sent her flying back against the wall, but the Sith came at him. They exchanged a few blows, Anakin protecting Lena, but she created an opening, and with his spare hand, gripped Ventress's air pipe and Force choked her. He was squirming in the air, and Anakin pulled her forward, thrusting his blade through her heart, killing her. Anakin was surprised by the assassination attempt. He knew from reports that Ventress was a Separatist assassin, not sure why she would have been ordered to kill him, but the truth came apparent a few days later. Anakin was sitting at his desk as his comm station behind him flickered to life without him touching anything. He heard his name muttered and turned to see a hologram of a cloaked figure whose face he was unable to see, but he introduces himself as none other than Darth Sidious. He tells Anakin he's surprised he survived his envoy. Anakin's brow furrowed, telling him so he was the one who sent Ventress, and the figure told Anakin that he was testing his power and he is impressed. He continues, telling Anakin that the Republic would never let a man like him live freely. If they win the war, the next thing they will do is come for him. But does he really believe that Jedi will allow one of their own to do the type of business that he's doing? They won't. However, the figure says that he will. Sidious offers Anakin legitimacy, telling him his pirates can be transformed into a mercenary fleet under Separatist command, if he swears loyalty to him, that when the war is over and Separatists win, he and his pirates can have full unopposed jurisdiction over the Outer Rim. Anakin laughs and refuses, seeing this alliance as merely another chain. He tells Sidious he's his own boss and is a free man, so doesn't work for anyone else. But under Sidious's hood, Anakin could see his expression change, and he tells Anakin he will see about that. The recording ends, and Anakin thinks about the interaction. The Sith Sidious has his eyes on him, and he must be wary of him. But on Palpatine's side, Anakin has surprised him. He was stronger in the Force than he expected, and realizes he sees Anakin now as a threat. Meanwhile, another year of the Clone War passes. Anakin and his pirates continue their operations, building up their wealth. Anakin gets reports that there is a Separatist convoy on the way to Sereno from the Deep Core, tracking along one of the lesser defended supply routes. He mobilizes his fleet, and they intercept the cargo ship. They quickly destroy the defending cannons and ships as they board the main one. Anakin carves through the droids inside, and their main pirate ship uses its tractor beam to take control. Anakin didn't think anything here would be of particular value, but he senses something different. His Force intuition, sensing that something here is unnatural. They take the ship back to Ryloth, and they begin expecting the cargo. Most of it is normal Separatist cargo, but Anakin finds one crate with the sigil of Kamino on it. This confused Anakin. He thought the Kaminoans were working for the Republic. He opens and sees stacks and stacks of data cells, all connected to each other. It must be over 1 million terabytes, and there are very few things in the galaxy that require this much storage, and therefore Anakin believed it must be important. He brings in the 2 decryptors on his crew as they begin using their machinery, illegal in the Republic, to decode the data cells. This takes over 3 days, but when Anakin read what they found, he could not believe it. Inside the data cells, listed as Project Maelstrom, what it contained was data on mechanical chips placed inside the clone army. Its purpose listed as a military-grade remote override to forcibly suppress or detect clone command protocols. However, this was just the surface to distract what the chips really were. The full decode revealed the truth. The inhibitor chips had a 3-layer structure. The central sensor that was in direct contact with the dorsolateral prefrontal cortex of the brain. The ethos layer to chain in the commands, but the third was the most important. The Maelstrom core, which was the override module, which could be used to command the clones to do anything against their usual logic or decision making, and the trigger of this was something called Order 66. Anakin knew he didn't have the full picture here, but he could tell through the Force that something was not right. He started to extrapolate and realized that these chips through the Maelstrom core could force the clones to do anything, exactly like a droid. But this was on the Separatist ship. Why would they have it? Anakin would meditate on this further until he discovered the truth. A couple of weeks later, the Clone War comes closer to Anakin's home. The Separatists set up a blockade on Ryloth, where Anakin's family and girlfriend is from, and Skywalker realizes why. Sidious is retaliating and still angry for not joining him. Through the blockade, the people of Ryloth begin to starve, and Anakin cannot contact his family. Anakin commands the pirates that they will break the blockade and deliver food and medicine to the people. They engage directly with the Separatists in combat, but after they begin, the Republic also comes to the aid of Ryloth. They fight together, driving the Separatists back until they're forced to retreat and successfully supply aid to the planet. Anakin lands on the surface next to the Republic command ship and walks over to the Jedi Obi-Wan and Ahsoka in charge of their mission. Obi-Wan speaks first, telling Anakin he flies like he fights, too fast and entirely too close. But Anakin rebuts, telling Obi-Wan that they're alive. Imagine that. But Obi-Wan gets serious and tells Anakin that his pirates did good today and that maybe he should consider helping out more. But Anakin laughed, telling Obi-Wan that defeating Sidious was the Jedi's job. He didn't mind standing back and reaping the benefits. Anakin goes to walk away, but Kenobi tells him to stop. Anakin turns around, and Obi-Wan asks him if he knows Sidious. Anakin doesn't say anything, and Kenobi asks him if Sidious has made contact. Anakin sees no reason to lie, and tells Obi-Wan he offered for him to join his Separatists. Obi-Wan asks if he accepted, and Skywalker tells him obviously not, and that the blockade of Ryloth is a demonstration of Sidious's anger. Obi-Wan tells Anakin that he must realize how dangerous Sidious is. If he controls the galaxy like he plans to do, does he really think he'll let his little pirate band survive. But Anakin laughs and tells Obi-Wan that's funny. Sidious said the same thing about the Jedi. But Obi-Wan pleads with Anakin, if he has any information about Sidious, any information that could help with the war would be extremely valuable. Anakin pauses, knowing what he found on the Separatist ship holds some meaning. The Maelstrom. It had to. Anakin knows Sidious is dangerous. He's able to attack him and use the Separatists to do this when he wants. Obi-Wan is right. No doubt if Sidious wins the war, he will come for the Ghost Sons, stronger than he is now. It's in his best interest to support the Republic, even if what he does is illegal in their law. He's less likely to get caught. It's simply a matter of self-preservation, but also, he wants revenge for what Sidious has done to Ryloth. He tells Obi-Wan that he has information, but it'll cost him 100,000 credits. Obi-Wan scoffs at Anakin's obvious joke, but Skywalker agrees to talk to the Jedi Council. He follows Obi-Wan into his ship as they stand around the comm station. As the blue images of the council members appear on the screen, Obi-Wan tells them all that Anakin has information about Sidious, and they all lean in intently. Anakin details what his pirates found, an encrypted Kaminoan crate on a Separatist ship labeled Project Maelstrom. It was a clone command matrix that detailed an intricate blueprint of a tech chip integrated into the brains of the clones that had the power to override the clones' decision-making capacity, ultimately able to command the clones to do anything they want. And encoded deep into the inhibitor chips is something called Order 66. Murmurs scatter around the council as they discuss what they think, but Anakin continues and tells them that he thinks there's more to it. His intuition and foresight in the Force tells him that Darth Sidious is behind this, and therefore secretly has control of the clone army. Windu speaks up and tells Anakin it does not matter what his intuition is, they will make up their own minds about the validity of the information. This annoys Anakin. He didn't have to tell the Jedi this, and he's doing them a favor, and he says as much, but Ki-Adi spoke back and told Anakin that he's a failure to the Jedi Order, and giving him this information to them is the least he can do. Anakin looks at Obi-Wan and storms back to his ship. He won't take this blatant disrespect, but Obi-Wan turns to the council and tells them if what Anakin says is true, then this is extremely worrying. The council know that the clone army was created by Dooku and the Sith to fight for the Republic, and now they know why. Because the clones have the capacity to turn on the Jedi. That's what the chips must be for. It's the Sith's ultimate plan, Sidious's grand plan, and Anakin has smuggled it to them. Later that day, after the Republic had left, Anakin sits back on his ship and thinks about the whole situation. Ki-Adi's words cut deep. Anakin knew he was the failure of the Jedi. He only acted for himself and his family, but he can't help but feel there is more to his purpose. Maybe he should be helping more. Maybe he should help the Jedi in dealing with Sidious. He goes to his comm station to contact Obi-Wan to offer his support, but before he can, Sidious appears in front of him again, but this time with a smile on his face. He tells Anakin he heard what he told the council and is very disappointed in him. He should have accepted his offer and joined his side, but it's too late. He will destroy the Jedi and Republic, and he will pay for his treason once the Empire is his. He will exterminate the Ghost Sons, and his family will pay the price. Sidious disappears with a cackling laugh, and Anakin feels it in the Force. Something has changed. He feels the death, the loss of life, and realizes Sidious must have done it, executed Order 66, and the clones must be turning on the Jedi. Anakin's conflicted. Does he remain here on Ryloth? Let the Jedi try and fight Sidious and risk his empire coming for him later? Or should he get involved and fulfill the forgotten prophecy of the Chosen One? Anakin sends a message to the entire Ghost Sons telling them to prepare for battle. He mobilizes all of his forces and they set their sights on Coruscant. Anakin meets with his crew on a ship and connects to the others in his fleet. He tells them what their job is, to get to the surface of Coruscant, to support the Jedi and stop Sidious. But his second in command speaks up, telling Anakin they have the credits, the cargo, that they owe the galaxy nothing. But Anakin tells them he's right, they don't owe the Republic anything, but if Sidious wins, there will be nothing left to be free from. They come out of hyperspace to see the planet erupting in battle. The Republic ships were set up in a certain formation to create a blockade of the planet, not letting any ships inside, and Anakin thinks Sidious must have realized they were coming, but that will not stop them. Anakin connects to his entire fleet and yells out that they are all thieves, and it's time to steal back the galaxy. Cheers erupt As they begin flying towards the atmosphere, they engage the Republic's forces directly as Anakin commands his fleet from his ship. He's the captain and must lead them. They take out the initial strike of Republic cruisers, but as they break the first line, they start to get pinched. Fire came from every direction, and Anakin started to lose some of his ships. He could turn back now, escape with his fleet, but he knew he had to keep going forward for the Republic. His capital ship broke through the blockade, but he looked out of his rear window to see the rest of his ships being shot down one by the Republic cannons. This made Anakin sad, but only motivated him to stop Sidious even more. Anakin had Lena enter a two-man fighter, as Anakin commands the main ship to land by the Jedi Temple to fight back against the clones. Anakin and Lena board their two-man ship. They go past the Jedi Temple and look down at the clone troopers. They were no longer men, they were a plague, now perfectly engineered order following robotic commands. Lena yelled in Anakin's ear, telling him they can't fight them all, that there are thousands. But Anakin says he is not here to fight them, he's here to steal them. Lena's eyes widened, telling Anakin that's insane, but Skywalker tells her it's the only score that really matters. He grinned and told her that Sidious spent a fortune building his army. Let's see how he likes it when it's taken from him. His plan was audacious, a true pirate king's gambit. They couldn't just deactivate the chips, that would leave the clones dazed and vulnerable, and the war would be lost. No, to win they needed to turn their enemy's strength against them. Anakin landed a ship outside the Republic Communication Center, a heavily fortified complex near the Senate District. It's a planetary galactic-wide transmitter, and was the only thing powerful enough to broadcast the Maelstrom device to override every clone in the Coruscant system. Together they infiltrate the center and reach the main room, whilst Lena holds the door, and Anakin jacks the Maelstrom data card into the central computer. The system recognizes it as a Priority 1 override, the highest authority, straight from the office of the Supreme Chancellor. Anakin begins uploading the program to input a new order. He codes it in himself, deleting the original Order 66 from the data logs to create Order 67, and he calls it the Ghost Signal. It states, Priority Target Reassignment, for all units to cease hostilities against the Jedi to their new target, Darth Sidious. Anakin uploads the file and turns to Lena, telling her to do it, as she slams the execute button as a wave of energy, both technological and force-based, washes over Coruscant. Across the planet, clone troopers stop in their tracks. The helmet of a 501st trooper, aiming at a corner Jedi Knight, suddenly flickers with a new HUD display. The Jedi's image is tagged as an ally. It is replaced by the hooded visage of Darth Sidious, tagged as the target. Meanwhile, Anakin and Lena make their way to the Jedi Temple, where they enter to see the outcome of stealing the control of the inhibitor chips. They see Obi-Wan, Yoda, and Windu standing there with Palpatine between them, unconscious and in handcuffs. At that moment, Anakin realized that Chancellor Palpatine must have been Darth Sidious. Anakin walked up to Obi-Wan, who called out to him and asked him what he did, that Anakin must have been involved somehow. Anakin told the Jedi he did what a pirate does and stole the clones outright from Palpatine and changed their target to him. Yoda tells Anakin the galaxy owes him a great debt, and Skywalker tells him not to worry, that he's sure he can think of a couple of ways for them to repay him. He looks to his right to see his fallen pirate crew. There were only 6 left, which meant the other 4 must have fallen, but he congratulates them on their help and tells them they will all be rewarded accordingly. They stay on Coruscant for the rest of the day until Anakin meets with the Jedi Council in their chambers. Yoda proclaims to Anakin once again that he and his pirates are owed a great debt. They've discussed with the courts, and the Ghost Sons are to be given a full pardon for any previous crimes committed. Anakin bows, and Yoda continues that the courts have also permitted them 6 million credits drawn from seized assets of Palpatine's estates. Anakin smiled. This was more than enough for his entire crew to retire on, in unimaginable luxury for the rest of their lives. It wasn't a reward for being heroes. It was a payment for a job well done, a language Anakin and his crew understood perfectly. Anakin accepts this gracefully and asks the council whether there is anything else, and Obi-Wan spoke up to Anakin and told him that there was. Ever since Anakin left the Order, the Jedi deemed him as a failure. Qui-Gon must have been wrong. Anakin could never have been the Chosen One. However, the Jedi were wrong. Defeated the Sith you did, Anakin, and the Chosen One you are. And he tells Anakin there is a place for him here, a seat on the Jedi Council and in the Order if he wishes. telling him that it's his destiny. Anakin couldn't believe the offer, but he turned, looked at Lena, then down at her stomach and back at the Jedi. He tells them his destiny was never in these council chambers. It was with her, Lena, and the rest of his family, his mother, the Lars, and his future child. Anakin saw the understanding in Obi-Wan's eyes. He tells them he wishes to be a friend of the Order and tells them to reach out if they ever need his help, but also tells them that the Jedi Order was a cage and the pirate life was a different kind of cage. But what he wants now is freedom, the quiet, peaceful kind. Obi-Wan nods and tells Anakin that may the Force be with you, my friend. You have earned your peace. Anakin passes off the money to his crew and wishes them all the best, urging them to stay in contact and to come visit with any opportunity they have. Anakin and Lena went to Ryloth, where he told his family what had happened, but most importantly, how they'd been exempt from any crimes in the Republic. They decided to move and chose Naboo. It was a world of green hills, blue water, and no painful memories. The estate they chose was vast and beautiful, a far cry from the Tatooine desert or metallic halls of their pirate base. Shmi, Klieg, the Lars, Lena, and their entire family thrived there, their lives free of hardship and surrounded by the love and security Anakin had fought so hard to provide. One evening as a warm sun sets over the lake, Lena found Anakin on the veranda, looking out at the peaceful scenery. He put his arm around her, his hand resting on hers. He told her he was thinking about the crew. They died to save a galaxy that would never know their names. To anyone else they were pirates, criminals, but they were the true heroes. But Lena tells Anakin that they knew them, and they're free because of them, and that's all they would have ever wanted. Anakin nodded, and after a moment, Lena asked Anakin the question that had been on her mind, if he will miss it, the thrill of the steel, the stars. But Anakin tells her he'll miss them, but he won't miss the life. He turns to her and told his now wife that he has everything he could have ever wanted here, a family, a home, a future. He placed his other hand on her stomach and told her that no amount of credits or priceless artifacts could ever compare to this. Anakin Skywalker, the former slave, the failed Jedi, the legendary pirate king, has finally pulled off the greatest heist. He hadn't stolen credits, or ships, or an army. He had stolen back his own life, and in doing so, he had gifted the galaxy its future. And he stood there with the woman he loved, watching the sun set on a peaceful world. He knew it was the only score that truly mattered.
Thanks for watching, everyone. Once again, don't miss our Black Friday sale over at Fantasy Sabers, where with every saber order, we're giving away a free Chosen One Deluxe. The best NeoPixel sabers on the market, so don't miss out.